There's a relief and a peace in just being somebody somewhere, in living a life where you've dropped the pressure to keep up. You've dropped the pressure to stand out, the pressure to be special. It's an open invitation to being, an open invitation into presence. And often, when we start stepping into what it looks and feels like to no longer try to keep up, we go through this process of grief and recognizing where so much of our identity lies in, how we see ourselves. We start recognizing what it is that we valued for so long, valuing it for so long that when it's time to let it go, it's difficult. This is the in-between space that we don't necessarily talk about that often, right? That space where you've chosen in many parts of your life. It doesn't have to be every part of your life, but in certain aspects, you stop trying to keep up, but you still miss what it gave you. Keeping up gave you a community that was easy to access. And now that you've chosen to live a life that isn't as showy, that doesn't require you to rush to the next milestone, now you aren't resonating with the community that you once had. And now it means taking more time and being more conscious of the community you build, the community you attract, the community you accept into your life. I know in my life, I've gone through a back and forth of trying to figure out what it looks like to not keep up in this world and how to relate and talk to people around me, whether it's strangers or family or acquaintances. There's this awkward adjustment because most people aren't consciously trying to stop keeping up. Most are still trying to stay in that realm of needing to impress and needing to stand out and being special in some way, somehow. So you might miss community in that way. It doesn't mean that there's not people or a person or that energy or group around you that doesn't exist or out there that doesn't exist, but it's in a space where you have to just vibe for a bit. You have to vibe in a space where you're not being told what to do all the time. If you're here and you've listened to my podcast before, likely you're someone who doesn't like to follow the status quo, doesn't like to follow these step-by-step rules and suggestions of what people have shared. what is popular to do. You are likely in a space where you're stepping into that because you've always felt it, or you've been in it for a bit, and you're tired of trying to defend your life choices, tired of trying to brace yourself every time you meet someone new or talk to someone that you've known and explained, this is how I see the world now, this is how I live now. It's not going to be outwardly quote unquote impressive, but inwardly you're clearing out your energy channels. You're more sovereign. I know that sometimes when people online, they click on my podcast episodes, they're likely looking for some like step by step, like, all right, what do I do next? I'm in this in between, Morcie. What do I do next? Right? That's something that is a part of the process. That's a part of your shift. That's a part of your evolution, is not depending on this concrete, tried and true blueprint. You're creating your own, you're paving your path. You decided, I'm not going to keep up, so that means I'm going to find my own way. That means you feel within your body what's next and what draws you closer to fulfillment. Or to be honest, it's not even closer. It's the moment you stop keeping up, you've already gifted yourself fulfillment. But in this in between space, it's easy when we're surrounded by these empty luxuries, virality, lots of applause and attention somewhere, even just in your day to day, feeling these expectations on who you're supposed to be, how your life is supposed to go, whether it's family or career, your dating life, whatever you find you feel pressure the most or often, you'll find that you might be tugged in a certain way, going back into a pattern that once gave you this illusion of success, this illusion of, yeah, I've got it all together. A couple years ago, about 7 years ago, I graduated from college to be a speech language pathologist, working in the schools, in a middle school. On the outside, my life checked off all the boxes. I had my own apartment, I had a car, I had a job every day, a salary. I had lots of friends. Easy to describe what I did. Oh, what do you do? Okay, I'm in school. I work at a middle school. I do this, that. Easy to describe. But on the inside, I wasn't fulfilled. I needed to feel more. I needed more passion. And it's not to say that that job wasn't it for me, to be honest. That was, if I were to pick something to go back into the workforce, that would be it. It was honestly a top pick for me in that moment until I realized, oh, this isn't for me. And there are often times in this process where I've chosen not to keep up, where I think about that moment where it was easy for me to describe what I do. Now, if someone asks me, I'll share. I help others live in the present moment. I have a podcast and a newsletter, and I coach. I'll share that. But it took me a while to get to that, to even describe what I do. Because to say I teach others how to live in the present moment is very umbrella. There's so much more. But when someone quickly asks you what you do, you can't, it's, you don't go on like paragraphs. You just one, two, you know? And it took me a while to get there. And, you know, it was uncomfortable for me for the longest to explain what I do. Even though you clicked on this video, whether you have been watching me for a while or you just found me, maybe you have that question yourself, or maybe you kind of get an idea, but that's kind of how it is when you start paving your own path. It's not something that's tried and true. And you might, and I've chosen to stop keeping up in so many parts of my life. And there has been immense peace. Like I can't even begin to describe that. But there's still those moments where I'm like, I remember how it was easier in many ways, you know, having the steady income was one of those things too. Often as you're in the space of choosing not to keep up, what you will have experienced is this loss of passion for constantly pushing forward, right? We're so used to getting up every day in the workforce, working 5 days a week, you know, having this structure to help you survive in the world, the practicalities of paying bills. But there's a part of you that's lost that passion. Maybe if you are an entrepreneur like myself and you're starting to notice, I'm still bringing in the same energy that I brought when I was working in a job force, right? When you begin to step into these paths that are not clear and not easily understood by the masses, it's your opportunities to start strengthening your awareness of fulfillment. What is fulfillment to you? How much do you feel full by abandoning what you want to do for applause and acceptance? It starts to unravel the stories that you held so much value in at once, and it can cause some dissonance a little bit. You might be tired of trying to hold it all together. You see that what you're doing, it's not working anymore. You've been pushing. It's not working anymore. You get up. You're hustling in some way, somehow. You're being productive. There's a relief and a peace in just being somebody somewhere. Your name doesn't have to be plastered across billboards. You don't need to be on the #1 bestsellers list. You can live a beautiful life without all this exaggerated images that are plastered in front of you of what society and the people around you deem to be right. I've noticed that those who do have that access to getting more and more actually have trouble with toning it down. I've seen very successful streamers here on YouTube who have chosen to take their earnings from streaming and live a more laid back life instead of trying to push for more and more. That takes awareness, because the mind, it always wants more and more. It always needs to prove more. it is not impossible to stop wanting that more, to stop stretching for more validation and attention. If you're already feeling that need to stop trying to keep up, it's already there within you. They are cutting the grass outside in my neighborhood, so if you hear something, I'm sorry. I found that for myself, I've seen the highs and lows of having a podcast here for 6 years, going on 7. There's been so many changes, and recently I came to a point where I'm truly settling in, just living. And I don't want to say truly because I have before. So what I want to say is it's deepening. It's deepening on a level without the needing tools, right? Many might start their spiritual journey and feel like, all right, on the spiritual journey, I need to take certain plant medicines. I need to start just externalizing my wisdom and awareness. But what I found is that it's been most powerful and most potent when I begin to balance that, right? It's all a part of our journey. So don't feel, I'm not trying to say something is good nor bad, but more of tracking the patterns of how I've come to a place where I've trusted my intuition, trusted my body, trusted my mind to guide me without needing step-by-step blueprints. And sometimes it takes being in those step-by-step blueprints. I really hope y'all aren't hearing this. If you are, I tried to do this podcast episode by avoiding that, but I can't. This is what happens when you live in a neighborhood like this, but it's okay. You stop trying to keep up. So honor the little moments in your life where you let go of the pressure. Sink into that. You did this for a reason. You've chosen to pull back for a reason. It's okay if you ever get sucked into that energy field of needing more and the pressure to stand out and be special, but the best gift you can give yourself is permission to be somebody somewhere, to not stand out, to not be special. You might see that ironically in many ways you end up standing out. You end up standing out anyway. Not because you're trying or anything like that, just because you're in your own energy, your own rhythm. Your aura is just you. And that's what many people are missing in life. They're missing the courage to just be themselves, the courage to be disliked, the courage to be misunderstood. Have the courage to be misunderstood, to be misliked. Let people be confused about your life. Let them be confused about what you do. That's been my spiritual practice in many ways. Let them be confused. What's it to them? It's your life. You were drawn toward presence. You felt deeply that letting go gives you a more fulfilling life. Surrendering to the flow of life is far more fulfilling than trying to keep up, trying to chase people for validation. Yeah, it's slower. Yeah, you may not get things as quick but everything around you will be full. You'll notice the wholeness and completeness, even in the parts of life that are not resolved, in the parts of yourself where you feel is not accomplished. You recognize the wholeness.